CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for Customer Rage Machine. Your CRM can't explain why a customer's package took 5 detours? Reboot your inner peace and scream into a pillow. It's okay. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. AI agents don't just track issues, they resolve them, transforming the entire customer experience. So breathe in and breathe out. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
Hi, I'm Christy Honeycutt. I'm your host for Inside the C-Suite, where leaders get real about leadership, impact, and what really drives high-stake decisions. Today, I am honored to have in our session, Josh Barone. Josh is the CHRO and EVP for Centerville Bank. He is a community driver and leader, and he has over 20 years in HR. He sits on several boards, one of which is the Special Olympics. Thank you so much for that. And you're a recent award recipient for, what is it, the Providence Business. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. It's the Providence Business News C-Suite Award. So they recognize various positions that sit on their respective company C-Suite and advance either their company, their function, or make a positive impact otherwise in the community.
Perfect.
So it's a great honor. It's a great annual event. It's actually happening next week, the event. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, and Josh, I met you for the first time at Sherm Talent in Tennessee, and it was such a pleasure. I just was in awe of the human you are and kind of that humanity you bring in your role. And there's so much more to you than my little snippet of introduction. Was there anything I missed that you'd like to share?
Wow, that's a really big question. Anything I missed? No, I think, I appreciate the words you just used when you talk about human, because I think, for me, one of the things that's allowed me to be myself in my role, in all my roles, is bringing the human to human resources. Yes, we need processes. Yes, we need policies. But at the end of the day, we're all people, and you have more success when you treat people like people and have that mutual respect. So, that's something that I've learned throughout my life personally, and I just try to apply it to the professional world.
I am of the maybe not so popular belief that our CEOs need to be our CHROs personally, because it all starts and ends with business. Don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's how I feel.
No, that it's interesting because CEO of the people, it's the number one asset of every company. If I could tell you a quick little story about that, Christy, it's kind of funny, but not funny. It was a prior job I had, and I remember when I started there, I was trying to build this idea of business partnering from an HR standpoint. And I was working with a manager who had his own perception of HR. And I remember he had an issue once that I found out about, and we're talking about how are we going to solve this? And every question he kept asking is, okay, after that, do I still need to partner with HR? Do I still need to partner with HR after that? And so finally, I kind of flipped it around. I said, let me ask you a question. Why do you keep asking that? And he's like, well, I want to be a good partner, but I want to know what I need to partner with and when I don't need to call HR. So I said, let me ask you another question. What in your business and your day-to-day involves people? And his answer was, well, everything. There you go. That's when you include HR in everything, because we're talking about people. And, unfortunately, you have a lot of operational managers that are extremely talented and very good at what they do. But sometimes they, through no fault of their own, just by being good as an operator, they take for granted the people aspect. And, that's one of the most invaluable things HR does today is keep people at the forefront of every discussion and always take into consideration, if you do this, what can happen? If you do that, what can happen? And just make sure we're going into things with eyes wide open of the impact on people.
I think that's beautiful, because if you think about, how people drive the business from executing it to, retaining it and the tribal knowledge that they gain over the years. I mean, you want to retain your people. You want your people to be delighted and engaged. And I know that you're super passionate. So I asked you some questions, and you were very passionate about 3 things. And I would love for you to share with the audience what those three things are and maybe your why, because individuals like yourself that are in leadership roles and responsible for people, I find it fascinating to see what you're passionate about and then why you're passionate about it.
It's very difficult to narrow it to three things.
I know I had to give you three.
So, employer of choice was one of them. And to me, that's what HR is all about today. We can talk compensation, benefits, talent acquisition, talent management. You can be great at bits and pieces. You can be great at all of it. But if you're not building your programs and the way you work to attract and retain the best people and be focused on being the best employer you can be to your people, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're the best subject matter expert on benefit programs or, we pay 90% in the market. That's great. But if people are miserable when they come to work, is that important? This is something that, employer of choice, I've been passionate about for well over 10 years now, because I learned about this from one of my mentors. And, be the company people want to work for. And then when you drill it down even further, why do people leave their jobs, right? It's typically, they say it's not the company. Sometimes it is. One of the biggest answers is your supervisor. And employer of choice is taking that even further. You know, be the supervisor or be the company you would want your kids to work for. And for people
Ooh.
that don't have kids, it's that you all have a youth or someone special in your life that maybe you took under your wing, you mentored, you love as a child, whatever it might be. Think about that person and who do you want them to work for as a supervisor, and what type of culture would you want them working for as a company? And sometimes I've always found when you personalize it on that level, people start to get it.
I love that concept. Like, it's kind of like do unto others as you have them do unto you. But if I think about my boys, I have a 29 and 32-year-old, and I think about where I would want them to work and what I would
Right.
want them to experience. That is much that hits the core of your heart. So
It
that's
forces a
I never
connection.
thought about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's beautiful.
So an employer choice, it's something here at Centerville Bank. When I was hired in the interview process, we were talking about that. And that's one of the things that really sold me on this being a special place to come was they're saying they want to do this. They want to be an employer of choice, already a great place to work. But how do we make it better? And how do we make sure everyone knows about us? So this idea of employer of choice, it's gained a lot of traction in the last few years. And to me, it's the future of HR because it's the thing that will help HR for anyone that's struggling to get CEOs or other business leaders to see that HR is a business leader. If you can turn a company around from a people standpoint, if you can become a recognizable employer of choice, you're going to open their eyes and they're going to reserve the seat at the table, so to speak, that some people say is there and others say it's not there for HR.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. One of the things I've seen, and I talk about this a lot, is mentorship and leadership, which you alluded to. I'm curious, in your role, a lot of people, not just but organizations, people will leave because of their manager. It's the highest ranked reason. Like if I go look at any Glassdoor review on any company, it is always either number one or number two. The least efficient attribute that they have is that
Mhm.
manager they left because of their leadership.
Yeah,
So in HR, and we know that there's so much you can do from attracting people in and retaining them, but you really need your managers to love on their people and to
yeah,
drive that retention. How do
absolutely.
you go about encouraging or empowering your leaders underneath you to give those employees the best experience so they do want to stay?
Well, it's a very simple answer, but also a very complex answer. If I can simplify it, it's, I say this a lot, it's doing the right thing for the right reason. It like keep it simple. That's truly all you have to do to start building a framework or a culture around how to take care of people. An example of this, Christy, when I started, it's been 3 years for me now. And like I said, Central Bank was already a good employer, was a good place to work. But just like any employer, you have like little pockets of opportunities. And we still do and we always will. Every company should always have opportunities because you're always continuously improving. But one of the things that jumped out to me when I started was the turnover, and not just the number, because it was coming out of the pandemic a little bit, so numbers were a little artificially high, but also the reason. And management or manager came up a few times more than I would have liked to see. So started looking into that, and really we made a very conscious effort to start hiring a little differently, training differently, and focusing more on culture and fit versus just job skill. So if anyone's out there in a similar boat where they want to start getting more people to buy in from a people leadership standpoint, you have to look at what you're hiring for. If you're going to hire the best data analyst who's never managed people before and then put them in a department to lead others, it's not going to work, at least not right away. And it might work because of luck, but it's not going to work because you hired for a deliberate need. It's that idea of hire. If you can find someone that has 80% of what you're looking for, you can train the other 20%. And I used to say from an HR standpoint, and I still do, I would rather hire someone who's a genuine, nice person that cares for others than the most qualified, because that's the one thing I can't train people. I've trained people on compensation, benefits, how to recruit, how to do a workplace investigation. I have yet to be successful in training someone how to be a nice person that cares for others. It's either in here or it's not. And
Right.
I've learned that the hard way. There are people that can fake being genuine in an interview. They can fake it in the first 90 days, but I challenge someone, you can't fake it more than 6 months. It will show
Oh,
it.
no. Well, in dating, what I learned over the year, I'm not single anymore, but I had a 7-month mark thing. If you made it past 7 months, it might be something there, but you didn't get all of me until we were at 7 months. Do
Was
the
there a
hard.
probationary period? Is that
There
how,
was a probationary
or an
period.
introductory period? Sign an offer letter, and then we'll let you know how it's going.
Yeah, I got to make sure that they're 80% of the way there so I can coach them on the 20%,
There you
right?
go.
No, I think it's brilliant that you brought up learning and development. And I know in your history, that's kind of where you started your career a little bit, was around L&D, which I think is such a crucial element of any leader, but especially a people leader. So anything else, like, do you think that maybe how you came up from the learning and development in your time at Swarovski, did that help? And I probably mispronounced that, so
You
correct
butchered
me.
it a little. I'll train you right now. Speaking of training, so part of our orientation at Swarovski
Thank you.
was how to pronounce the name. And we used to have literally had a PowerPoint slide and with a picture of someone skiing that was in a snowbank with 2 skis sticking out of the snowbank. And the message was, if anyone has ever skied or tried to learn how to ski, you probably ended up like this. And if you did more than once, it was at that time that you swore off skiing.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant.
So Swarovski. The V is a
Swarovski.
double F. So see, that was a little L&D lesson.
I know, and you're so great at it. I'm already engaged and ready to go. Well, and I know I kind of jumped into your top 3. So we talked about your top 1. Do you want to share your other 2 with the audience?
Sure, I might need a little help because there's more than 3, but I know HR consultation is something that I mentioned because that's also, to me, the evolution of HR. And I go back to early in my career, and I started HR in the retail world, which it was very black and white, and not in a bad way. It was the industry, it was the time, it was you do this or you do that. And what I saw a lot of was, well, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And then me being naive and not really having HR education or a lot of experience at the time, asked the dumb question of why can't we do that? And that was kind of the start of it for me, that, this idea of ask why. I'm sure a lot of people have heard you ask why 5 times, you get the real answer. But by asking why, by being curious, it leads to a more consultative approach versus an answer and tell approach. Like you don't want someone to come to HR to get an answer. Yes, there are answers answers we have to give, but you want to invoke conversations. You want to treat it like a consultation where we as the HR person are learning more about the opportunity or the issue that might exist. And the person coming to us is learning a little bit of the mindset and the framework from which we can operate to come up with a solution. And I don't like telling people no. I prefer telling people, tell me about what's going on, and then let's come up with options. So I'll tell you what you can do, not what you can't do.
I
And
love
that was
that.
something I learned through more of the negative lens early in my career because it was always a no, 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 no. I'm like, well, this is fun. How many more people can I tell no to today? Um, and HR today, we talked earlier about having a seat at the table, being a
Yeah.
people leader, being a business leader. It's all about relationships. It's all about the consultation. When somebody leaves a conversation with me, I want them to feel good about it. It's not about me. It's about the result of the conversation that we arrived at together. And that's really how you move things forward. It's building relationships, deepening relationships, and making people feel like the time spent with you was valued and important.
Well, I know I spent some time with you a little bit in Tennessee, and you definitely made me feel seen and heard, which is so important in your seat. And it's not natural for everybody. It's not easy. You know, when you were saying that, Josh, you made me think of something. I've heard, being at the conferences and then hearing people outside of HR that are in different business units. There's always this question if HR is the enemy, if they're more company focused or people focused. So I'm just curious what are your thoughts about that and how do you balance that?
Yeah, you do hear that a lot. I mean, how do you balance it? So, a same company earlier in my career, I learned very early on, never carry a red folder walking into a store. I learned that the hard way where I'm like, why are they all looking at me like I'm a jerk or they don't want to talk to me? And I just had my training folder. I'm like, Josh, your folder's red. I'm like, so? Oh, well, a district manager always used to have a red folder before he fired someone. I'm like, oh, you could have given me a heads up before. Like, so look, it's funny and it's not because it was a
Yeah.
reality, but I think it's about being known for the engagement, the activities, the results that drive good engagement and a positive culture. It's not just talking to people when something's wrong. It's
Mm.
creating, and think about it. HR, it's difficult because you can't talk to every employee all the time. So you have to think about this when you're communicating, whether it's email, whether it's video, when you're updating a program or a policy, you have to understand that whatever you put out is your voice and it's what people are hearing. And if you're not able to tell it in a positive way, what makes people feel good, then they're going to interpret it however they want.
Mm.
So it's not just the one-on-one, it's the face of HR. It's an idea of PR for HR, which I know we'll
That's
talk
your
to.
third one.
It's the third one. I see. It's all related. Um, but it's about, not just being there as the complaint department, not just being there when there's a problem. It's the proactiveness. It's taking care of it's little things. So I'll share a quick story because you'll learn this about me, Christy, the more we talk. The stories help tie everything together,
I love it.
and appreciate it. So we have a long-term employee here, just was out, had his second child, and it's actually happened when I was at the talent conference, and I got a text from him with a picture of a gift basket, and he just said, "Hey, we just got home from the hospital, super excited. We have this basket here from Central Bank, and it's a baby gift basket. It's got all like diapers, essentials, a little gift card, all this stuff that a new parent would love and need." And the question was, he's like, "Thank you so much. Is this just for me, or do we do this for everyone?" So I responded. I was giving him he's a really good person and employee. I'm giving him a hard time. No, no, sorry, you're not that special. We do that for everyone that has a baby. But it's like that. Someone has surgery. They were in a car accident. Obviously, most places I think do bereavement flowers, but we try to celebrate everything. And it's from an HR standpoint, sometimes it feels like all we're doing is ordering baskets, or we started doing, somebody goes out for surgery, or their spouse does. We just do a DoorDash gift card now because who
Oh,
wants to go home and
perfect.
cook? And you get a basket, you got to eat it all. If it's got fruit in it, order whatever you want. it can be a lengthy administrative process if you have more employee situations like that, but the reward is huge. It's
Yeah.
another way to have your voice extend to the employee when they're out of work. And what happens? They feel great. They feel like, because they are, but they feel like they're important to their employer and we really care about them.
I love that because it doesn't have to be, there are probably people watching this that might not have a budget for people related things, but it doesn't have to be a big deal. It could be a shout out in an email or a newsletter, or, there's so many companies that the employees never hear about. They never hear, hey, congratulations on your 1 year, your 2 year, your 3 year. Like, that's not even on their radar, but it's making sure that the person is seen and heard. What are you showing me? Oh,
A handwritten card.
see?
These cost nothing.
Take it back to
Do you know
human.
how do you know how people feel about that? So I'll tell you another story. So that's a card I received a few weeks ago, and it costs nothing. It's still sitting on my desk. And you have one too. There you
See?
go. Pen, people can still write in cursive. It's okay. It's important. It's still here. I value it. I'm appreciative of the person that sent it. We had last summer, we won an Employer Choice Award, and there was a mix-up with the number of seats we had. We had invited a set number of employees, and we found out the last minute we over-invited by 5.
Oh, wow.
So, we don't want to pick and choose. I sent out an email to everyone say, I apologize, but what we'd like to do is we'd like to look for, if anyone would like to volunteer to not go, what we can do is we're sponsoring another event later in the summer and guarantee you a seat at that. So I had 5 people right away say, oh, no big deal, Josh. We understand. I'll opt out. So what I did then is, we have these little Centerville Bank cardstock. I just wrote a quick note. Thank you. Appreciate this so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next event. And I stuck a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card in there.
Oh,
I got more feedback from those 5 cards than I got when we increased PTO by a week and a half 2 years ago. it was it it highlights what I was talking about earlier. Like, be human.
yes.
That's
I
what
I
it comes
love
down to.
that. Well, and for, you bring such good energy, and I can feel your heart, and I love that, and I think that's so important in your role. But if someone's listening to this and they think, geez, I want to get to where Josh is, and I know I asked you this question, like, hey, I'd like to get on some boards. What do I do? I'm curious what your recommendations would be for those people that want to aspire to be in your seat or want to aspire to be on a board. Can you share the insight that you shared with me?
Sure. So I'll talk about my role first. So somebody that wants to be a CHRO someday, I would say that you have to chunk out your career. I'll go to another learning and development theory. We're gonna chunk this out, step at a time, one learning activity at a time. So you can't sit there at the beginning of your career say, I want to lead the HR department someday. But you can say that, but that's not going to get you there. What's going to get you there is having a flexible and adaptable mindset. And that's something I look back on my career, and I'm only sitting where I am because I said yes to opportunities that if I just said, no, I'm doing what I'm doing, this is my path, I would have said no. I was a trainer. I wanted to lead a training department someday. And then because of circumstances outside of my control, my organization asked me if I could go do recruiting and business partnering. I said, sure, I've never done it before, but what do you want me to do? And then the same thing happened with compensation and benefits, and it just kept happening. And I kept saying yes. And what I learned along the way, and I had a great mentor that also helped me kind of understand this, is that the ladder that I thought I was going to climb now became 40 feet wide. And I could climb it anywhere in that range I wanted. It wasn't just one path up. There were multiple opportunities. And I also learned that growth also happens going left and right, not just up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm an example, at least in my mind, of someone who learned that, I took a lot of left and rights in my career, and
Mm-hmm.
it culminated in what I would consider a very synergy focused relationship between my values, how I view HR, and the needs of Centerville Bank, because it's a people first, relationship focused organization. It was like that before I got here. But I think, what I've been able to do is complement that philosophy with my own style and way of viewing HR and people, so that it's a very good relationship with me and the organization here. Which leads me to the next part I was going to say is, you have to identify companies that you can support their values. If you just want that position and you see an opening and it's in a company that you're like, oh geez, what do they do, or what's their mission statement? And if it doesn't resonate with you right away, it's never going to resonate with you, and you're going to be miserable, and you're not going to be as successful in your role. Yeah, you can do it, but who wants to go to a job that they can do versus going to a place every day where you feel comfortable, you feel valued, you feel like you're truly making a difference?
Yeah,
So
that's such great knowledge.
I hope that helps someone. It's there's no direct path, but and then it's very similar to the board aspect. Don't join a board because you want to join a board.
Mm-hmm.
Ask yourself, what are you passionate about? What do you have to contribute to someone? Special Olympics came about for me a little bit by happenstance. There was somebody at Centerville Bank who was on the board that was leaving the bank. And as a result, I think moving to a different state, so wasn't going to sit on the Special Olympics Rhode Island board anymore. And rather than just give it up to the seat to whoever, asked me if I had an interest, because we had a conversation a month or two earlier about, I need to find out another outlet for me to give back from an HR perspective. What can I do to keep sharing this and pay it forward for others? And it just so happened when this person was vacating the seat, they were simultaneously looking for another HR professional to join the board to give them more diversity in thought. So not only was it a good marriage of what I was seeking and what they were seeking, it was also for an organization that, how can you not be supportive emotionally and be present for an organization that does so much for a group of people? So, that was another good example where I wasn't just looking for a board. There were plenty of board opportunities I could have been on, but were they looking for someone like me or not? And if they weren't, was it going to be the best use of time? And then another board I'm on is the Northeast HR Association, which, I've been a member for a long time and always thought of them as a value-added organization. But then when their CEO approached me a couple of years ago, I had won an award through them. Was well connected with a lot of members. Josh, we have an opening. Do you want to be on the board? You know what? I think I can give back. I can influence a lot more, and I can have a lot more opportunities to talk about the good things HR does in a broader sense if I take that.
PR and HR, baby.
Right. Again, it was an opportunity to continue to advance the profession. And that's what it's about. And this is one thing I have to give credit to my mentor, because he instilled it in me, this pay it forward mentality. And I remember one of the stories he shared with me early in my career, that he was mentored by someone early in his career. And the advice that person gave him was that all I ask in return is that you do the same thing for someone someday.
Josh, I think I shared this with you. It's my personal methodology, but my grandfather was prisoner of war. He was World War II linesman, pastor, police officer. This guy was like salt of the earth. And
what didn't he do?
What didn't he do? Exactly. But I remember he sat with me, he called me sis, and I called him pops. And he said, sis, when you're in life, you need to always be pulling somebody up. And, but you also need to be looking up and someone needs to be pulling you up. And he said, karmic law, like if you're just taking care of your community, they'll take care of you. And then together you guys thrive and rise. So I've always looked at it that way. But there's a new book out by Ruth Goshen on leadership. And she talks about above and below, which is what I grew up with, but also beside, like having that peer mentor, somebody that you can kind of chat with. What I find a lot in our industry is that usually there's one of you, right? Or there's one head of TA, and there's not really anybody above them in their organization to mentor, coach them, or help them grow. And then with your L&D background, my thought is we have to reach outside of our organization sometimes into the different organizations that you spoke to and mentors. So I'm curious what your feedback would be for somebody that's sitting in your seat or has maxed out in their role in their organization. How do they continue to grow? What does that look like? What would you
Yeah,
recommend?
it's a great question. I mean, I was told once that, this will be a very lonely role. And
Yes,
and it
lonely
can
at the top.
and it can be. It can be. And I would say it's no different for if you're an HR or an LD of one, or if you're on a team. So I have the benefit here of having a great team, but nobody has the same experiences or perspectives as I do, just like I don't of each of them individually. So one of the things I did when building the team is I've worked at places before where people always told me yes. It was like I was giving an order rather than brainstorming was how they were taking it. And that doesn't work for me. I don't want someone to tell me yes. I need someone that's going to challenge my thinking, that's going to give me a different perspective, because then the end result is going to be better than what I could have done alone and better what that person could have done alone.
Yes.
So that's a key. If you're someone sitting in this role, building a team, use predictive index, use Briggs-Myers, whatever disc, whatever you're using or have access to, use it to make sure you're not hiring all the same. Get people that are going to challenge you. It's the only way we grow. If you're a department of one, the challenge for you is to get out and network. Local SHRM chapters. I mentioned NERA that I sit on the board of. There's a number of these organizations up here in the Northeast that do CHRO roundtables.
Mhm.
Doesn't cost anything. Go, bring your current issues, bring your thoughts, bring your expertise, bring the challenges that you've overcome. You all learn from each other. And that's a no cost, great environment that will lead to longer term relationships and connections. And it just equips you with more information. I mean, the best thing of about HR is we're dealing with people, right? We're not really inventing anything new. Yeah, there's always new benefits, there's new theories, there's new models for PTO and performance reviews. I mean, how many times is there going to be a new best practice in performance review? Go to monthly, go to every 6 months, go to every 3 years. Just do monthly ad hoc meetings. That's fine, but we've all dealt with the same issues regardless of industry. And a lot of smart people have overcome challenges and issues and found new ways of doing things. You just got to learn what's worked. Don't go out and invent something if you haven't asked a peer yet, hey, did you have this issue and what did you do?
Right. Like there's so much knowledge to be had and shared. So one of the questions that I have for you is, you've really ran this interview on your own because everything I was going to ask you just brought to the table because I know that you
You want
bring
me
the
to
heat.
finish up or you're going to stay on till
You
the
can
end?
wrap it up for me.
Or?
No, what I'm really curious about is you've had a great career and you've landed
Thank you.
in a good spot and you're doing amazing things for a community, which I love and appreciate. And thank you if you haven't heard that lately. It's a beautiful thing. I'm curious what Josh would tell his younger self, your 14-year-old self, if you could look back after all these years, not aging you by any means, but if you can look back to 14 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Probably a lot of things. Don't buy as many cars in your life. No, what I would tell myself is something that I learned along the way. It's don't get too high or too low. It's
Mm,
it's a long process, life, not just your career. And when you get too high, you're always going to be pulled down hard. When you get too low, it takes too much to pick you up.
yeah.
It's about rebound time. And for me, one of the things I've learned throughout my career is, just be steady. You know, when you're feeling really good, take that. Be confident, be proud. Don't get cocky. Don't get out over your skis. We'll use a Swarovski
Swarovski.
reference again. Don't get over your skis, but stay balanced. And then when you have a roadblock or you have something that's a big opportunity, don't sit down forever and wait to pick yourself back up.
hmm
Because what's happening when you're feeling sorry for yourself? the work is still happening. The people are still relying on you. So that would have been the thing I told myself is that, you drive it versus riding the waves and getting too high and too low.
I love that. That's such good advice. And one closing question that I ask all of my guests: what is the biggest myth that you believe about the C-suite?
Biggest myth about the C-suite: they're stuffy, they're stuck up, they wear different, they put their pants on differently than others. No, I mean, like for me, I remember a time where the C-suite, you looked at them differently.
Yes.
And there was an air about people, and it's not true. They don't do anything differently. The way people look at them is a little different. So, I guess for me, it's empowering people to remember that they're people. They had a career path just like you, but at the end of the day, what differentiates someone in C-suite and someone else is just what the goal of their career path was. Not everyone wants to do that, and that's great. But
not everybody should do that.
Not everyone should do that too. But people that do want to do it, like I said, it's what I talked about earlier with the steps and why do you want to do it and how do you want to get there and how flexible can you be? So whether that's a myth or not, it's just they're real people. And a lot of them, if you actually talk to them, they're a heck of a lot more approachable and live a normal life than people think.
I agree very much with that statement. Well, Josh, thank you from the bottom of my heart to the bottom of your heart for joining this podcast. It's all about elevating really bright leaders and learning from you. So thank you for being transparent today. And for those that you have joined, please like and follow, and please connect with Josh here. And we'll see you next time.